Got great news for you. Supreme Court deals blow to EPA in dispute over federal water rules. This is actually really, really, really bad. The Supreme Court sided with San Francisco on Tuesday in a challenge to water quality regulations issued by the EPA in a ruling that could have sweeping implications for the agency's ability to limit offshore pollution. The 5-4 decision, shout out 5-4 podcast, dealt another blow to the agency, which has recently sustained several losses before the court over its efforts to protect the environment. The case was notable because it created unusual alliances. Liberal San Francisco found itself on the same side as mining and petroleum trade groups like the National Mining Association, American Farm Bureau Federation, and American Fuel and Petrochemicals Manufacturers in opposition to the EPA. The dispute fundamentally focuses on human waste and how San Francisco disposes of it. The question before the court was whether the Clean Water Act of 1972 allowed the EPA to impose prohibitions on wastewater released into the Pacific Ocean and to penalize the city for violating them. Poop beaches, let's go. Let's go! I hate San Francisco too. Don't worry, guys. We're together. We're together on that one. Let me get a video. Why is it that when I look up Supreme Court EPA, all the stuff that comes out is from 2 years ago? This just happened. Huh. There is like, wow. There is like no news coverage of this. I see a Fox 13 Seattle 26-second long video.
This just in, the Supreme Court has struck down rules regulating the discharge of water pollution. It narrows the landmark Clean Water Act. San Francisco sued the EPA after the city was accused of violating certain guidelines for discharging sewage into the Pacific Ocean. The decision is the latest rollback on the EPA's ability to regulate pollution. Last summer, the court blocked an agency initiative to regulate air pollution that drifts across state lines.
And that's it. That's the only video that I can find on this. I'm sure there are more out there, but Google search results are not providing me a lot of information on it. Alito, writing for the majority, said that the EPA was entitled to impose specific requirements to prevent pollution, but not to make polluters responsible whenever water quality generally falls below the agency standards. What? You can make general rules, but you can't follow general rules? What does that mean? At the end, you can tell San Francisco was trying to backpedal because they realized what was about to happen. I suppose this court case was probably filed a long time ago. I'm literally a wastewater plant operator. Hearing about this is insane, that they're okay with this. It's going to cause so much bacteria to eat up the oxygen, causing mass die-offs of fish along with poop water. They're applying the logic they used to end the Chevron doctrine. Yeah. The EPA no longer has the ability to, like, manage the specifics of these regulations. It has to go back to Congress. You're going to talk about the mineral deal being signed today? I'll talk about it when it's signed. Everyone loves to yap. San Francisco challenged non-specific or narrative wastewater permits that the EPA issues to protect the quality of surface water sources like rivers and streams relied upon for drinking water. The court blocked the EPA from issuing permits that make a permittee responsible for surface water quality, or end result permits, a new term coined by the court. The EPA can't issue permits that make you responsible for the result at the end of the permit issuing period. Why not? The agency has adequate tools to obtain needed information from permittees without resorting to end result requirements. What? It's not about information. It's about requirement. What? How? Those aren't the same things. I don't know. Why did Roberts play nice for a few years before going mask off? Oh, he was always like this. He's always like this. He's always been this kind of guy. Somebody said the second to last paragraph you can see. In the lead up to the October oral argument, San Francisco officials had pushed back on the notion that they were challenging the federal government's ability to regulate the environment. They just wanted clarity on the rule for the city's wastewater permit so the city could ensure it complied with the Clean Water Act. Well, sorry. When you filed this case, I bet the Chevron precedent was still in effect, which means that the EPA would have had the ability to clarify their own regulations. But not anymore. Now that the Chevron precedent no longer applies, this shit has to go back to Congress, right? It has to be litigated. We're going to have rivers on fire again, aren't we? I mean, this is so literally the outcome of this is the EPA can no longer issue water discharge permits and hold you accountable for the quality of the water that is discharged. They're bringing cholera back. Just put this shit water in the bag. The EPA issued San Francisco a permit allowing it to discharge pollutants from its combined sewer system into the Pacific Ocean. The permit's conditions include prohibitions on discharges that contribute to a violation of applicable water quality standards. Okay, so the EPA said San Francisco can discharge pollutants, but only if it meets water quality standards. Which makes sense. There's no way of making sure your water is completely pollutant free. You're always dealing with like smaller and smaller amounts of pollutants. The permit included generic prohibitions on the impacts to water quality as part of the EPA's efforts to halt San Francisco's releases of raw sewage into the Pacific Ocean during rainstorms. Okay. So the idea from the EPA was San Francisco's sewage system tends to backflow during rainstorms, so let's hold them to these water quality standards in all cases, because that will be an incentive for San Francisco to get its shit together, literally. San Francisco challenged these conditions, arguing the EPA lacks statutory authority to impose them. Bullshit. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit in July 2023 upheld the EPA's authority. Wow, what a surprise. Incredible. But the Supreme Court... The case drew the attention of powerful business groups, National Mining Association, U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It's the first grapple with the Clean Water Act regulations since the Chevron defense was struck down last year. Yeah, this could actually end up being really bad. This basically means that the EPA no longer has the legal authority to impose broad standards on permits and the requirements concerning water quality and wastewater discharge and the like. They can issue specific guidelines, but general ones no, which means that the already very gutted EPA will now have to create specific rules and regulations for every single individual permit, as opposed to just like an application of the pre-existing water purity standard. Basically, it demands from the EPA an enormous amount of work when they have fewer people than ever to do the work. So that's cool. Time for them to copy-paste that shit? Yep. This will just slow permitting Lamau? Maybe. Okay. I will now finally look at this. How many people today have thrown this link at me? Okay, Serbia's blowing up or something. I don't know. And it's not Bill Clinton's fault this time. What's going on? No noise, apparently. Well, it seems like people are having fun. Are we balkanizing further? Lawmaker suffers stroke. Cool. Serbian opposition lawmakers threw smoke grenades and used pepper spray inside parliament on Tuesday to protest against the government and to support demonstrating students. Oh, well, that's nice. We take that. We take those. Yes, I remember this. Yeah, it's a weird parallel with Greece, right? Where you have these massive anti-government protests that are spurred by infrastructural failure that's actually a consequence of government corruption. A railway station roof had collapsed days earlier in Novi Sad, killing 15 people. Thugs then set upon demonstrators who were calling for justice for the dead. That's a very that's a very charged language from Reuters. Initially, there was little sign of wider support from the protesters. 3 months on, however, the demonstrations have ballooned into the biggest protest movement in Serbia in years. There are a lot of parallels here. What happened? Serbia exploded again. Looks like they're having fun. Why does every European country have sauce, but the U.S. doesn't? We are a uniquely sick country. It is true. We toil, you know? I mean, I think in this case, it's that the members of the minority government, like, actually believe in something, you know? Whereas the Democrats kind of don't. Well, wake me up if Serbia balkanizes again. They've already carved off Kosovo. Maybe we can get, like, we can draw another line. Keep in mind, European countries have historically been just as sauceless as America in the past. I don't know if that's true. I think that what we're seeing in America right now represents a kind of spiritual deprivation that's essentially unparalleled in any developed country that I can think of, you know? Like, you have the most powerful country in the world, and with basically not the origin point of democracy or anything crazy like that, but certainly like a leading voice in democracy historically, leader of the free world, etc. I understand these are largely propagandistic terms, but I'm talking about narrative here. And then in no time at all, just completely openly gutted with a kind of naked corruption that, you know, it's less artifice than you see in Russia. And there's essentially no pushback. I mean, I think a large part of it is just the fact that Republicans and Democrats are both so captured I don't know. So captured. So how do we fix their saucelessness? Well, like and subscribe. I hope you're enjoying the stream.